5, 4, engine ignition, 2, 1, 0. Relay and liftoff.
And Atlas TU has gone to closed loop control.
Nicole Stott will be the first to tell you her artwork is far from polished.
I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this.
But much of it is inspired by her own out-of-this-world experience, her view of our world below.
This is based on a picture that I took of a little chain of islands on the northern coast of Venezuela called Las Rocas.
The painting, called The Wave, was done with watercolors during her free time as she circled the Earth. You see, Nicole Stott flew in space.
2, 1. Booster ignition and the final liftoff of Discovery.
Stott is a retired astronaut. She flew twice on the shuttle and lived on the International Space Station, in all spending more than 100 days off planet Earth. She lives now on Florida's west coast.
She's getting pets. Do you need pets?
Not far from the city of Clearwater, where she grew up and where her passion for flying took hold.
My dad liked to build and fly small airplanes. And so at Clearwater Air Park, just up the road, I swear as kids, we spent most of our time at that airport. And I just developed a love, too, of flying, wanting to know how to fly myself, but I think even more wanting to know how things fly.
That desire never changed even after her dad died in a small plane accident a week before her 16th birthday.
There was no expectation that I would go to college, but I was supported in doing that. And I discovered, if you want to know how airplanes fly, aeronautical engineering is the thing you study. And thankfully, nobody told me how difficult aeronautical engineering was, because I don't know if I would have trusted, had the confidence to pursue it.
After graduating Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in 1987, Nicole applied to NASA. But this was a year after the Challenger disaster. The space shuttle program was shut down, and there was a hiring freeze. She took a job in structural design at Pratt & Whitney, a company that makes airplane engines.
And I discovered that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I found every time I was looking at the design on the computer or the piece of paper of the turbine blade that I really wanted to have my hands on the turbine blade. I wanted to be working with the hardware itself.
Roger roll, Discovery.
A year later, she got the call from NASA.
And the people at Pratt & Whitney supported me when that call came through, and ended up, in the orbiter processing facility with space shuttles there and working on the ground support to get these vehicles to fly.
Was that a pinch me kind of moment for you?
Absolutely, because I just always got the sense that, okay, that's something, they're on a hiring freeze, maybe that's the sign, this just isn't going to happen.
Nicole became flow director for the Space Shuttle Endeavour, which means prepping the vehicle for flight from the time it lands until it next rolls out to the launch pad.
At that point, did you say to yourself, I think I want to fly in this? Had you already thought about that or not?
I had thought about it, but really just kind of in a way that was still too dreamy, I think, almost. Still too, that's all what other special people get to do. Don't even think about that, Nikki. Just, do your thing here, be part of it, all of that. It took me a while to get to the point of thinking it could even be a possibility.
But possibility became reality. After being turned down on her first try, Nicole Stott was selected the next time as part of the astronaut class of 2000, more than a decade after joining NASA. And it would be another 9 years before she flew.
Here's Nicole Stott.
I'm telling you.
She's a mission specialist and is riding Discovery for a long-duration ride aboard the International Space Station.
But what a trip.
Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery. Celebrating its 25th
Nicole spent the next 3 months on the space station, but before Discovery, her ride up to station, departed, there was another pinch-me moment. A walk in space.
Docking sequence is complete.
Would that have been the highlight of your experience, doing a spacewalk?
If I'd never gotten to do it, I think my experience in space would have been equally as good. You know, I think about that now. You know, going into the flight, you're like, oh wow, you know, I really want to do a spacewalk, and I mean, I highly recommend it. It's incredible. You know, just like flying in space, I highly recommend it. You know.
We see the umbilical starting to deploy. About 40% of the way so far, going pretty quickly.
And I would say the highlight of the spacewalk was riding the robotic arm, like the end of the arm, for like 25 minutes.
The Canadarm2 multitasking, grappled on to the ammonia tank assembly and being used to haul Nicole Stott and the European Technology Experiment Facility over to Discovery's cargo bay, where it will be berthed.
I honestly thought when you rode the end of that arm, and I was holding on to a box that down here would weigh about 900 pounds, and up there I could just, you know, I could do anything I wanted with it.
Everybody kind of takes a peek back at the Earth when you can.
Oh, you're peeking the whole time, you know, as much as you can. Yeah, you want to go like, you know, and move the box up, and you're like, don't be that one either, right? And yeah, it's stunning.
Now, let's get back to that painting of the Venezuelan islands called The Wave. Nicole painted it during her downtime on the space station, but it almost didn't happen. Bringing watercolors to space never crossed her mind.
At what point did you decide you were going to bring paints to the space station?
Yeah, well, yeah. I know. You know, I don't think I would have thought about it on my own. First of all, I totally credit Mary Jane Anderson, who was one of my flight crew equipment people. She's like, Nicole, you know, you're going to be up there for months. You know, why don't you think about something for yourself, like something that, you know, you enjoy doing down here on Earth?
If you haven't guessed it already, painting in zero gravity is, as Nicole puts it, an ordeal.
Instead of dipping my brush into a cup of water, because we don't have cups of water up there, I would squirt out these little balls of water from a drink bag and then take the brush and dip it into this floating ball of water. I mean, I was in awe of it, like watching, wow, this is so cool. I'm like dipping my brush in a floating ball of water.
Sadly, this picture, snapped by a fellow astronaut, of Nicole holding a brush in her right hand, the picture she painted from, and the wave painting in her left, is the only one anyone took. Until recently, the painting had been on display at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. But not the paint kit.
The paint kit is still there, right?
Well, I hope so. I hope it's just hidden up there somewhere. I hope it didn't end up in like a trash vehicle or something, you know. But I've had quite a few people look for it.
And they can't find it.
Yeah, and they can't find it. And I've had, you know, and it's so silly because, you know, I was up there again. And on 133, I didn't even think to look for it.
That was in 2011. The space shuttle program was ending. Discovery was on its final flight. When Nicole came back, she was in line to fly again to station, but made the decision to retire after 29 years with NASA. Nicole has painted several pieces in recent years. Most are of the Earth that passed beneath her.
Roman, my son, had me paint this one. We were looking through pictures, and he's like, oh, you got to paint that one. It looks like Iron Man. I'm like, you're right.
Another she calls Red Sea Dancer. Her latest creations are pendants based on pictures of the Bahamas and the Australian desert.
When people look at your paintings, what do you want them to see? What do you want them to take away?
I want them to really consider what we're doing, you know, with space exploration, why there is just such value in what we do in space. But I also want them to bring that back to Earth. I want them to bring all that back to Earth, understand that it's about improving life on Earth, but then to consider the beauty perhaps that they see in my painting and want that to be what life is like for everyone on the planet.
Did you come back with a passion, or was it more of an obligation, do you think, to give back? What was it?
I really feel like, there's things that happen to us in our life along the way, and I think we're supposed to use every one of them to do the next thing better, maybe. And I think, honestly, I got to go to space so I could be doing this now, so I could be working on this.
This now Nicole is talking about is the Space for Art Foundation. She is one of the founders. The spacesuit is a patchwork of paintings by sick children, stitched together on heavy canvas.
We're trying to unite a planetary community of children through the awe and wonder of space exploration and the healing power of art.
2 of these, stitched by ILC Dover, a company that's been making spacesuits for NASA since men walked on the moon, have already flown on the space station.
Each of these are original paintings from kids in hospitals and refugee centers in over 50 countries around the world.
Many of the children in this moving music video are fighting childhood cancer.
We need them to be cancer-free.
Nicole Stott, a teenager who wasn't sure she'd even go to college, became an artist and an astronaut who flew 2 missions. This is her latest mission, and no doubt there will be more.
We need them to be cancer-free.